children stand free on the strength of will and love. With God in all our struggles, St. Kitts and Nevis be a nation bound together with a common destiny. As stalwarts we stand for justice and liberty with wisdom and truth. We will serve and honor thee. No sword nor spear can conquer, for God will sure defend. His blessing shall forever to posterity extend.
Be seated, please. On behalf of the Clarence Fitzroy Brand College, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you this afternoon to witness our 5th annual Authors Forum, aptly titled In Celebration of Books. This afternoon marks a special occasion for the Clarence Fitzroy Brand College and for all who cherish the power and beauty of the written word. We've gathered not only to celebrate the incredible contributions We have gathered not only to celebrate the incredible contributions of our authors, dedicated storytellers, and knowledge sharers, but also to actively foster a vibrant culture of writing within our society, within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and beyond. This event holds particular significance as it aligns with the global observance of World Book and Copyright Day. It is a day recognized worldwide to promote reading, writing, publishing, and copyright. And what better way to honor that than providing a platform for authors to share their invaluable works directly with you, the audience, both physical and virtual. We believe that books are more than just pages bound together. They are windows to different worlds, bridges that connect us, and seeds that inspire new ideas. By bringing authors and readers together, we hope to ignite a passion for both reading and writing, enriching our intellectual landscape, and fostering a deeper appreciation for the diverse voices that shape our understanding of the world. So, let us embark on this enriching journey together this evening. Let us listen, learn, and be inspired by the authors who have so generously agreed to share their insights and creations with us. Seated at the table three of our participating authors, Mrs. Jean Williams Knight, Dr. Ricardo Neal, and Mrs. Denise Caesar. Online is Dr. Miriam Schamalz of Germany, who will be presenting virtually. Also at the table is Dr. Cameron Gill, who participated in the forum a few years ago. Let us give our authors a round of applause. I invite other authors who are in the room to stand. Let us see all the authors who are in this room, all who have published books. Let us see all who are here and let us salute them. Let's have all authors. Congratulations. I also would like to take this opportunity to invite you to view our exhibit, which is on the balcony before you leave today. I want to especially welcome again Dr. Miriam Schamalz, whose dissertation focused on language attitudes in St. Kitts, changing norms of English and Creole in a Caribbean community. She will share her findings with us today. Welcome, one and all, to In Celebration of Books. Enjoy this literary feast which has been prepared for you. Yes. So at this point, I would take this opportunity to introduce our moderator, Dr. Cameron Gill, who was born in Irishtown, Basti, St. Kitts, a graduate of the Basti High School. Dr. Gill holds a bachelor's degree with honors in history with a minor in archaeology and a master's with distinction in heritage studies, both from the University of the West Indies, Cayville campus in Barbados. For his master's dissertation, he researched Barbados's maritime heritage from a material culture perspective. From 2010 to 2016, he was the CEO of the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park Society and the UNESCO focal point for St. Kitts and Nevis. He is a former board member of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society and the St. Christopher National Trust. At present, he serves as a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Arts, Science and General Studies at the Clarence Fitzroy Brand College and course coordinator for History and Caribbean Studies. He is a principal archaeologist, heritage and historical research consultant at CamGill Consulting. CamGill Consulting has successfully completed projects for the Ministry of Agriculture and the Taiwanese Embassy, the Department of Environment, and the Nevis World Heritage Committee. Cameron is a member of the Association of Caribbean Historians, the Institute of Historical Studies at the University, of London and the Royal Netherlands Institute of Southeast Asia and Caribbean Studies. In 2020, he successfully defended his archaeology. In 2020, he successfully defended his archaeology PhD dissertation with Leiden University, Netherlands, on the historical archaeology of the port of Sandy Point and its anchorage. A published author, he is currently working on his second book. Help me welcome to the podium Dr. Cameron Gill, moderator.
Good afternoon, all. Welcome again to CFBC's 5th annual celebration of authors. So we have with us three local authors and another researcher who has studied our linguistic heritage here. Now, books are a journey that we took to our imagination, both the imagination of the author and the reader. And we'll be taking various journeys this afternoon. Each author will be given 7 minutes to give the presentation, and I know a book is a labor of love. So to distill that labor of love into 7 minutes, I know it is difficult, but we want to ensure that everybody has fair time for their presentation. Bear in mind as well that in the question and answer segment later, questions will inevitably be asked that will allow you to cover aspects of your book that you were not able to cover in your presentation. So, without any further ado, I will introduce our first presenter, Ms. Caesar. Okay. So let me give a brief bio of Ms. Caesar. Ms. Denise E. Caesar is the author of Making Married Life Easy and Quiet Strength. Architectural by birth, our author is a lover for God, life, and love. She is number 5 of 8 sisters. Currently employed as a sales account executive at Cable and Wireless Business, she has earned degrees in Master of Science in Business Administration from the University of Wales and Master of Business Psychology from the University of South Wales. Our author is an international certified Christian coach with certification from Destiny Training Academy and Certified Excellence. She is also the owner of Customized Smile gift baskets and Customized Coaching and Mentoring Services, CCMS. She is passionate about helping others identify their purpose that will allow growth and life fulfillment in the areas of relationship and faith. She is a motivational speaker and poetic writer who uses simple words to create great pieces of work. Our author enjoys spending time with herself and, as a lover of nature, can sometimes be found on the beach or among the trees relaxing. She cherishes her private time praying, reading, and, of course, writing. She also values spending time with her family and close friends. Help me welcome the author of Quiet Strength, Denise E. Caesar.
Good afternoon to everyone gathered here this evening, and also to those on social media. I must take this opportunity to say thank you to Ms. Anita Daniel for affording me this opportunity, and I would say as well, you will not regret coming here this afternoon. For my 7 minutes, today I will be sharing with you on my book, Quiet Strength. Before I get into the meat of it, I must say that I have been writing from junior high school and always had a desire to publish my work. I had a name for my collection. It was going to be For the Love of Poetry. That did not work out. In the midst of writing another book, the Lord shifted my writings and started to download to me strategies and lay out for another book. So this book, Quiet Strength, is more than a devotional or a journal. It is a collection of deep, intimate, thought-provoking, and inspired writings about God, life, and love. It is an inspirational book of poetry with prophetic utterances, scripture references, and motivational thoughts for daily meditation. This devotional is divided into 3 sections: the various aspects of God, experiences in life, and encounters of love. Each division is preceded with prophetic writings, an introduction to each section, an impacting prayer, and of course, journaling space. Some of the poems included are Thanks for Being God, The Comforter, Man's Life, Knocked Down but Not Knocked Out, The Perfect Words, and I Love It When. Listen as I introduce you to Quiet Strength. Life can be so busy and short, yet we have so many things we would like to accomplish before it is all gone. It is important to stop, think, reminisce, quiet the mind, be still a moment, just chill. Welcome to Quiet Strength, a collection of God's best for you, in Him, in life, and in love. Within the pages of this adventure, you will be inspired in hope to trust God, to take Him at His word, and to embrace with joy everything that He has prepared for us, His children. It highlights God, our Creator, and His indescribable abilities within the heavens, the earth, and the seas. With it being a blessing to be alive, we narrate about life's events in the world and how we are affected in our daily lives. God's desire is to be included in man's daily affairs. We show how He loves to communicate and fellowship with His children. God is love. Where there is life, there is God. What is life without God? This timeless written piece showcases different aspects of love. Proceed with caution. The heat within these pages may be too hot for some to handle. If you can manage, allow your imagination to go. Get your creative juices flowing. Keep your feelings in check and enjoy the read. Quiet Strength devotional includes prophetic utterances which the Holy Spirit has spoken to express the heart of God towards His children. This devotional will strengthen you, motivate, and encourage you in your walk with Christ as you journey and experience life and love. Why was this book written? This book was written to offer hope and encourage and motivate the reader to trust God and to take Him at His word, no matter what life or love offers. It was also written as a strategic tool that can be used to strengthen the family bonds through family devotions and a great conversation starter when relating to teenagers or growing adults. It highlights the good and positive, even in the worst of situations. This book is a testimony that we can trust God's timing. It is evident that even though we may be quiet and reserved, as I am, there is greatness within you. You have what it takes to impact the world. And if you feel as though you do not have a voice, Let your words speak for you from the paper. Who was this book written for? If you love God, life, or romance, this book is for you. If you are young or young at heart, if you are seeking hope, encouragement, or direction, or if you are a lover of poetry or literature, get yourself a copy. If you and family would like to cultivate your relationship with Jesus Christ, this book is for you. Why should you get a copy? This book is anointed, dynamic, diversified, power-packed, and versatile all in one. It will transform your life and your thinking. It will inspire you to be all who God has called you to be. It provides space to be alone for your thoughts and to capture them on paper. In closing, listen to this motivational thought on page 41. A call to arise. There is a call for men to arise. However, the call is for all to arise. Arise to action. Arise from procrastination. Arise into purpose. Arise out of that bad relationship, out of that toxic job. Arise from laziness. At times, we can get so comfortable that energy leaves us. The will to get up, dress up, and do something may even seem impossible, but you can do it. You are more powerful than you think. Do not be intimidated by those around you or by the situation against you. You are a warrior. You are a fighter. You are not a quitter. You are not a loser. To be passive is just to accept life as it is. I ask you, what is your life's vision? Be prepared to work to see your vision materialize. Don't just go through life with no plan. Otherwise, you will not accomplish much. Make a decision that you will not just live and survive. You will make an impact. You will leave a legacy. You will thrive. You have something to offer. You have a voice to be heard and gifts and talents to be shown. Away with what's normal. Away with what's familiar. Arise to greatness. Arise to destiny. Now arise to do what God has called you to do. Thank you. From Quiet Strength.
Thank you for that, Ms. Caesar. Impactful and concise. It's a great example for the other authors to follow. Okay. Our next author is Ms. Jean Williams. Jean is an author, attorney, and social advocate from the beautiful Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. She has spent the last 2 decades heavily involved in professional and personal activities focused on empowering young people and women through creative arts and civic engagement. Currently, she is the registrar of the Intellectual Property Office, where she is responsible for creating policy on matters such as copyright in the creative industries, patents and innovation, and protecting brands with trademarks. After suffering the devastating loss of her son, after 26 weeks of pregnancy, she turned to writing as her emotional outlet. On November 23rd, 2021, the day that would have been her son's fourth birthday had he lived, she launched her self-published book, Lifting the Weight of Miscarriage, Healing Insights on Pregnancy Loss for Sufferers and the People Around Us. The book chronicles the first 6 months after her loss and seeks to offer helpful insight to help other pregnancy loss sufferers and the people around them to navigate the experience with more compassion and healing. Readers have described it as unputdownable, brave, and a practical guide for healing from pregnancy loss. Please welcome again Ms. Jean Williams.
Put my timer on, so the moderator doesn't have to pull his umbrella out on me. Good evening, everyone, and it's an honor to be here, especially in the presence of authors, students, and book enthusiasts. As it was said earlier, why did I move this? Okay. All right, so I'm an attorney. I've also been doing poetry for maybe 10 to 15 years, and I think most persons expected me to write a book. I thought I would write a book too. I thought I'd write a book on intellectual property. I thought I would publish poems. I thought I would write a textbook. These are all things that I have, on my vision boards. But it wasn't until, as the moderator explained, that I went through a pregnancy loss in 2020. It was my first pregnancy. I was 37 years old, and it came to an end with 4 words that still to this day I hear very clearly. Those words were, "He didn't make it." I will spare you the gory details about what exactly happened, but just to say that at 6.5 months pregnant, for women who have been through pregnancy, you know that there is already a very strong connection to the child. You know that you have already made many preparations to welcome this child. And so for someone to have gone through a pregnancy, a very smooth one, I should add, no cravings, no sickness, moving along fine, it really was a devastating experience. So the book really chronicles, as was mentioned, the first 6 months after. So if you want to know what it feels like and what it looks like for a woman to have lost a baby at such an advanced stage, the kind of emotions that she goes through, the kind of experiences she has, it is something that you might want to consider. If you have a friend, if you have a wife, if you have a girlfriend, if you have a family member who has been through the experience, the book was written to help those persons, the people around the sufferers. Because I got asked one too many silly questions. I got comments that were insensitive, and people didn't think that they were insensitive. There are still people who still didn't know that saying, "God knows best," is the worst thing you could say to somebody who has been through such a traumatic experience. So instead of constantly saying this, I started to write it. I started to write down all the things that I wanted people to know. Don't ask me this. Don't say this. Don't invite me to this. Don't do this or do more of that. Things of that nature. So I started writing these things down and realized it's forming into a book. The other element that came into play for me while writing the book was the fact that I'm a lawyer, and the fact that I went through an experience with our hospital where I did not have the opportunity to bury my son because I was not pregnant for 10 more days. Had I been pregnant for 10 more days, the law says that I would have had the right to bury my child. So now I have to go and research. Now I have to figure out where is this law? Where did it come from? And in my research, I found that these are laws that have been in place since like the 1930s. No changes. Although other countries in the Caribbean have made changes. So, again, policies that could change to bring more support for people who go through pregnancy loss. As you could see, sometimes I still get emotional about it. But why did I write and publish? So I told you why I wrote it, because I got tired of saying things. But I published it because I realized as more and more people found out that I lost my baby, women started coming to me and saying, I lost 3, I lost 4, I lost 9. I lost my marriage because of this. And these sorts of things, you realize that these are women that I see all the time. Women in my own family. I had no clue that they went through this experience. And it really made me think, why are we hiding this? When statistically, it's estimated that 1 in every 4 women is going to have this experience. Why are we hiding it? Why are we not talking about it? Why are we still applying laws from the 1930s if it's still very relevant today? I spoke to one woman who called me and told me she had the same experience I had in 1981. Why? So I wrote to increase awareness and published to increase awareness, and also to add to literature from the Caribbean. This was very important to me because I didn't feel comfortable talking to people about it. I felt like a failure. I felt like I would be judged. So I didn't feel like talking to people about it, so I turned to books. But I got tired of seeing books from people who didn't look like me, people who don't have my experiences. So I thought, well, where do Caribbean women turn? So I'm going to write something for us, something that talks about our diet, something that talks about our culture, something that talks about our laws, because they're still very much similar in lots of respects. How did I write? I self-published. Oh, one more reason why I wrote. I wrote and published to reframe the day. So I lost my son on November 23rd, 2020, and I decided that I was going to publish and launch my book on November 23rd, 2021, and I did. So when November 23rd comes around, I not only think about my son, but he made me an author. So I often think about that. How did I write? I self-published through my own imprint because I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. I don't care if you don't like the title. I don't care if you don't like the cover. I don't care if you don't like the content. This is what I want. So going to another publisher was never a question for me. I did it myself. So I just want to, as it's now 8 minutes, I just want to encourage our prospective published publishers, published writers and authors, that every one of us has a story worth sharing. We have no idea that we are standing on answers that somebody else is desperate for. But sometimes we talk ourselves out of it because we're afraid of being judged. We don't think that we are worthy to write a book. But darling, there are people across this world who never question, never even think to question their worth, the worth of their voice. And I would say, because it's Jan, I also have noticed men don't seem to question whether their voice is as worthy as much as women do. Women have ideas, we have plans, but for some reason, we don't want to push it out. We don't want to say it. But men, at least from my perspective, seemed to be much more open to that, much more bold, much more courageous. And I decided for myself that I was going to be bold. I was going to be courageous. And there's nothing spectacular about me. So it means that somebody else, another woman, you could do it too. So that would be my encouragement for you this evening. And hopefully if you have questions in the question and answer segment, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Before going to the next author, thanks for sharing that. Let me unlock my tablet and move on to introducing our next author. Okay, Miriam Smaltz is an independent sociolinguist and researcher who completed her PhD in English linguistics in 2021 at the University of Zurich, Switzerland. In her PhD, she focused on language attitudes in St. Kitts, changing norms of English and Creole in a Caribbean community. In 2024, she started working as the personal advisor to the mayor for social and educational topics in the city of, now my German is very poor, so I don't know if I pronounce it right, Friedrichshafen, in southern Germany. She's a social linguist, and I have to say this one slowly as well, and dialectologist by training, and has a vivid interest in the interplay between language in general and non-standard varieties in particular. In particular, language attitudes, culture, and identity. In her research, she focuses on World Englishes, non-standard varieties, language attitudes, dialectology, language and culture, and language and education in St. Kitts, in Northern England, and Switzerland. Miriam Smaltz is the co-editor of the Gruyter volume on acquisition and variation in World Englishes, bridging paradigms and rethinking approaches, and a special issue with the journal World Englishes on Englishes in the Caribbean, status, functions, and features. Moreover, she is the adjunct editor for the Caribbean section of the forthcoming Wiley-Blackwell Encyclopedia of World Englishes. In addition to her editorial work, she has also published her own research on language attitudes and perceptions in St. Kitts and England, as well as on English in the Swiss educational system in different peer-reviewed journals and edited volumes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, joining us virtually from Germany, Dr. Miriam Smaltz. Now, before Miriam goes into a presentation, I heard a melody just now, so that reminded me to remind you all to please put your devices on silent or turn them off. Thank you very much. Now we welcome Miriam to give her presentation.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Cameron. Can you all hear me? Does it work?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Wait, let me just share because I thought I'd bring along some slides because it's easier to follow, I guess, with the results of the study. Let me see whether I can do this. Yes. Okay, good. And I set my timer as well, so I hope I can stick to the time limits as brilliantly as the previous authors have done. So thanks again from my side very much for having me today. It's a great honor to be able to present what I've done already a couple of years ago, but still very grateful to be here. So when you look at language, you can look at many, many different things in linguistics. Two big distinctions are that you can look at language description, so you look at what words you use, what consonants, what vowels, or you look at what people think about those kinds of Englishes that you use, so what they think about certain words or certain varieties, certain dialects that people use. And this is exactly what I did as well. So I looked at what people think about the language rather than what kind of language they use themselves. This interested me because research has shown that we all have a disposition to respond favorably or unfavorably to an object, person, institution, or event, and these are attitudes in general. In the case of language attitudes, this object is, of course, the language that you speak. And interestingly, or yeah, surprisingly also, language attitude research has consistently shown how quickly we form very, very strong conceptions of each other's identity based on the way we speak. So on someone's educational background, on someone's socioeconomic background, just based on the way someone speaks, someone pronounces their words. In World Englishes communities, other researchers have found changing norms as well, but especially so in Trinidad and Jamaica, because most of the research is from those communities. So I was also interested in another community, whether it's similar in St. Kitts to, for example, Trinidad or Jamaica, whether it's different. This is especially important as well, because even though there is more positive attitudes towards English and Creole in St. Kitts as well, still it has been shown that ideologies of standard remain powerful means of oppressing or privileging certain sectors of societies. So even though there is more positive attitudes towards Creole or local varieties of English, people are still sometimes oppressed because of the way they speak. Language attitudes can also then be used, of course, for theory making. So if you're interested in research, but, and this is what interests me, it's got a very applied aspect to it as well. So we can use the insights gained for education, for language policies and language planning in general as well. So what did I do? Previously in St. Kitts, there have been a lot of studies on language description, so on the kind of Creole that is spoken in St. Kitts, the kind of English, but not so much really on what people think about the varieties. So in 2018 and 2019, I did a couple of experiments and also of a couple of interviews talking to people in different contexts and with different age groups. I did a map drawing task where I asked 49 people to draw different dialect areas that they were aware of in St. Kitts on a map. So I was interested in what speech areas they think exist in St. Kitts. I did a listening task with adults and children as well, where I played them certain sound files from the US, from the UK, from St. Kitts and Jamaica, and asked them to rate them on status and social categories. And I did interviews with general participants, general inhabitants, but also with teachers and with one principal, because I was also interested to see, okay, what do children think about varieties, but also in what kind of context and environment are they being taught. I could talk like all the other authors for quite some time, because as Cameron said, it's what did you say? It's kind of a work of the heart, but I have to keep within the 7 minutes. So I would just want to summarize some main results of what I found. Let's go back. In the map drawing, I found very, very fine-grained distinctions between different dialect areas in St. Kitts. Something that probably is not going to surprise any of you is that a lot of people focused very strongly on St. Paul's and on Sandy Point. Was mentioned quite a lot. And this is also what you would expect, that very, very close to where you live, you have very strong and fine-grained conceptions and perceptions of different varieties, where you can say, okay, you can pinpoint which village people are from. In the listening tasks, and now it gets very interesting, I found a multi-normative orientation. So this means in earlier studies, often for status, the focus was very much geared towards the UK and the US. What happens now is that there is more of a local focus as well, to say that, okay, speakers with an English from Jamaica in this research are also considered to have a high status, a high degree of education. What I also found is that there is still a very strong distinction between English and Creole in St. Kitts, with Creole having, or the local dialect having, a very versatile attitudes or perceptions as well. On the one hand, very positive, saying, okay, it's a cultural value, it's the native language, very much connected with emotions and natural language, but on the other hand, still also very negative connotations as well. Interestingly, when I worked with the children, what I saw is that they already have a lot more positive attitudes towards Kitish and English, so the English spoken, which wasn't as apparent with the adults. And this shows that there is some change happening, so that the younger generations already have more positive attitudes towards the English spoken in St. Kitts, which is a very positive thing, if you ask me, to see. Looking at education as well, I talked to teachers, and I also did classroom observations to also see when they switch between dialect and English, in what situations, and I talked to them also explicitly how they deal with the language situation. They also showed increasingly positive attitudes of the teachers towards Kitish and Creole and its cultural value, similar to the general results in the interviews as well. They also showed some bilingual usage of the language, very domain-specific usage of Creole. So in emotional settings, teachers would use Creole, or when praising students as well. But nevertheless, even though they said that they have a lot of positive attitudes towards the local variety, they said that students still struggle with English sometimes, so that the students still have problems with geography, for example, not because of the geography at hand, but because of the English that they have to do it in. So there is still a lot of work that we have to do. But why are attitudes then important to look at? The thing is that studies show that there is a connection between us being aware of the language going on around us and when we use what language or what dialect, and the acceptance of those languages. And the more we are aware of them, the more we accept the languages as well, the more equality and the more participation we can achieve as well in education, in politics, in the community at hand in general. Yeah, that was it. That was a very, very brief overview, and looking forward to the Q&A section.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you very much, Miriam. I know from experience to describe your doctoral dissertation in 7 minutes is extremely difficult. So, next presenter. No, I have the pleasure of saying that our, I shouldn't quite walking, but I'll proceed because I have a kind of pretty long one. But I have the pleasure of saying that our next presenter. Hello? No. Okay. Is better? Okay. I have the pleasure of saying that our next and final presenter, Dr. Ricardo Neal, was a colleague of mine at the Immaculate Conception Catholic School and is now still a colleague of mine at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College. Dr. Neal is a published author with several publications under his belt. The first one I encountered is one he had published on IT, which the students doing IT, CSEC IT, use at ICCS and as well as many secondary schools, not only in the Federation, but throughout the region. That is the background, that is Dr. Neal's academic background in IT, and he also specializes in robotics and AI. Dr. Neal is the one who created the St. Kitts Nevis Robotics Association, and many of my present and former students are members of that association. And he has done a lot of research on AI. AI has become much talked about and a rather contested topic recently. As a matter of fact, one of the topics I gave my Cape Caribbean Studies students this year to do for an SBA was attitudes towards AI among both students and faculty. Because I see one of my students is smiling because she's one who have to do that. There's a lot of, it is a very controversial topic. Like every other technology, it can be used constructively. It can also be misused. And I think, well, I have not read it as yet, but I suspect that this is what you're going to be discussing in your most recent publication. So Dr. Nee's most recent publication is The Modern Voice of Artificial Intelligence, Achieving the United Nations Sustainable Goal Using Artificial Intelligence, AI. Without any further ado, I will again introduce our next presenter, Dr. Ricardo Neal.
Went haywire, so let's hope it works for me. All right, nice. Good evening, everyone. I tend to be a very long speaker. However, I will make it short. And excuse me. Before I came here, I asked myself several questions. And I want to say I can identify Hadassah, who is here, who is a member of the association. I asked myself several questions, and well, you know, one in particular: how should I start this presentation? And I decided, okay, once I see the audience, then I will get an idea as to how to pivot. So I had two ways that I looked at. One, to either start with, and I know I'm on time, I'm on a timer, start with how did I start in this writing arena? And most persons know me for robotics and not necessarily to be an author, even though I have written 17 books and counting. And so that is, thank you, that is what my way of addressing certain topical topics, if you will, that exist within the context of the Caribbean region. Now, and I'm going to start with the start of how did I start, and then I cover some of the topics here, given that my time is very short. But I used to be a full-time, and I use the word full-time, secondary teacher at the Charlestown Secondary School. And while I was there as a teacher, and Mr. Daniel could attest, who is here in the audience, I'm saying this because I want the persons online to know, right, what is happening here. So I was a full-time secondary school teacher at the Charlestown Secondary School, a very ambitious teacher. Ambitious meaning that my students should perform well at whatever cost. And so I remember a case where I was given, rather, a number of students who are in what we classify as the A3, or the A4 and the A21 stream. And for those of you who are from Nevis, you know, those students are the students who are not from Nevis. Those students are the students who, you know, is deemed either cannot learn or they are slow, in which those are duns. Those are terms that I do not agree with. Categorically do not agree with those terms. And so I asked permission from my head of department to give me the opportunity to bring the students to sit the CXC examination. My head of department said, no, we can't do that. So I said, why? He said, because remember the school average is going to drop, and that's a common trend throughout the Caribbean region. It's not anything new. Right? And so given that I was so ambitious, I keep on bothering my head of department until she said, you know what, Neil, go. Right? But you're going to have to explain that to your principal. So I went to my principal, explained, and he sat in his seat, and he thought about it, and he said, okay, go ahead. And so I took the students, and I began to take them through the chapters and you know, the knowledge that CXC wants them to know. Now, the challenge that I had while I was teaching the students was that I had to use several textbooks to teach the one subject. And that in itself was a problem for me. I felt that you should have one textbook to teach the students. I'm not supposed to have 6, 7 books juggling what topics are in this one, some is not in the other one. And so I decided to take on the task of crafting material for my students to use. And I craft the first, and I would say not necessarily a published book at that time, but I craft the first notes. I put some notes together, and I gave them to my students for them to use. And it led me down into looking on the programming aspect of the exam. And it so happened that the students used that material. They sat the exam, and a few weeks before the exam came out, they called me and said, Mr. Neil, you know I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail, and I'm having, some said they're having hot flashes, you know. I don't know where they get that from, you know. Some having pain. Some said they're going to go to church now to make amends because they have been rude in school. And so we have all kind of stories coming from the students. It just so happened that when the result came out, we sent up, I think it's around 22 students, and we got about 19 distinction out of that group. So the students excelled. What that says and what that would have indicated to me, that students can learn. Give the students a chance. And so I have always been an advocate in that regard. That notes would have transferred into the recommended textbook by the Caribbean Examination Council, and also would have propelled me to sit on, among the writers for the exam at CXC. I have given that up now because it's too much work, so I have walked away from that. But my journey has been for advocacy. And so in 2023, I recognized that the talk of AI would have been popular, and popular in the continental countries, but not necessarily within the Caribbean region, which I felt was an issue. I felt that within the Caribbean context, we should be leading the conversation on artificial intelligence, primarily because our strong dependence in the region is tourism. That's our dependence. And when it's not tourism, then it is the citizen by investment unit, and so we depend. And so it is for us as educators to begin to look at what are the avenues that exist that we can maximize development within the region. And so I took the chance, if you will, at the time to create the book called, and let me give it the proper name, and it's on the screen there, so just in case I don't have the book here, it's online. If you want to get it, go and get it. It is hot bread, right? The book is called The Modern Voice of Artificial Intelligence. Now, in this book, I look on the SDGs that is outlined by the United Nations, and a few of them, and I cross-reference them with how artificial intelligence can actually maximize our operation within the Caribbean region. And I use operation because I'm covering all aspects, whether we're talking about agriculture or we're talking about education. AI can change the scope. And I know I might be over time already, but, but there are some topics that came out when I was researching this particular book. And one that came out was the ethics and governance of artificial intelligence. It is one thing to use ChatGPT, and if I ask persons to raise their hand to indicate if they use ChatGPT, some people will not raise their hand, but we know, but I know you probably, okay, honest, all right, some honest people there, yes, right? And so, yes, we use ChatGPT a lot and so forth, and we find it as a good friend, right? You have persons who have built a social connection with the AI, where if they have a bad day at work, they open the AI and tell me something good today. I had a bad day. So individuals have begun to build this connection with AI, which could be a negative response, while it could be a positive response, depending on where you stand. Okay? And so you find it happens. So I felt that it was important for me to look at ethics and governance of AI, which therefore means that countries would have to embrace the reality of developing policies to govern the country. Now, why is that important? That is important because once technology is open to the entire region, it therefore means then the governance of the country will have to say, okay, you have to know how to use it, which therefore means that there's some level of education which is needed, right? So that's one topic that I jumped, and I'm going through them quickly because I know my time probably is gone already. But I also looked on AI education, preparing for the future. I believe that artificial intelligence should be taught in schools from primary, secondary to tertiary. I do not believe that we should shy away from AI because of fear. And the reason why I say that is because we can look at evidence throughout ages. If we look at the car that we drive right now, if you go back in time and you go all the way back, they used to have carriage, right? And I'm certain that when the first car came around, persons were skeptical. I prefer to ride my horse. I don't want that. No, that is from the devil. It is demonic. So stay away from it, right? But now, if you look on decades, since that time to now, we have embraced vehicles. If you don't have a vehicle, you're not saying nothing at all, right? And then the young people want to learn to drive. And so you find that it becomes a part of our culture, right? And the reason why I advocate for AI within primary, secondary, and tertiary is because the region cannot be afforded to be left behind, right? The continental countries would have moved on, and so it is for us to catch up and also pass because we do have the capacity to do that. Case in point, the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotics Association. And the reason why I say that is because we are one of the few organizations within the world who is registered to do what we are doing, and the only one within the Caribbean region who is registered to function as we function. And that is great for St. Kitts and Nevis. It means that we are leading the charge where innovation is concerned. And I'm going fast, Mr. Moderator. AI role in government and the workplace. AI should be talked about in government, whether government operation, whether policy, as I said before, and also in the regular work. I had the opportunity to speak to a number of countries a few months ago, and the interest is there within the region. What we find is that there is a challenge to adopt, and the challenge is because of the fear that something might go wrong, and the fear that there might be some issues. But I'm here to say to you, every technology comes with two sides. It can either be used for bad, to do bad, or it can either be used to do good, right? So it depends on how it is used. Now, in conclusion, I want to say that The Modern Voice of Artificial Intelligence is not just a regular book. It is a thought-provoking book. It allows you to think a bit more deeper into how AI can advance your life, how it affects countries in a good way, I might say, and how there are, and how we have bad actors who use the AI, and how policies can actually contain and protect you. Now, I want to say before I finish that we know that we use AI on a regular basis. And so I want to advocate for us to use it in the right way, right? Do not tell chat everything. Do not tell the other AIs everything. Because the more you feed it, the more it learns, right? My advice is explore to develop your own. And then you can make a business out of it. Thank you.
No problem. Thankfully, with my voice, no big deal. So thanks again, Dr. Neil, and again, thanks to all of our presenters. Let's give them all of them another round of applause. Now, we will have our question and response segment. Being the moderator, I'm going to unfairly use my position to ask the first question. Ms. Caesar, you mentioned we have something in common. We're both nature lovers. I love the outdoors as well. So I just want to ask you, be briefly, just how has the outdoors, well, if anywhere, has it influenced your writing in any way? How does it inspire you or provide a muse for you in your writing?
Okay, so I am inspired in various ways. And yes, at times the outdoor works for me. It all depends on what I'm writing. It depends on how I'm feeling, right? It depends on the mood that I'm in. It depends on the inspiration that's coming. It depends on the flow that I'm feeling. So it depends. But yes, the outdoor definitely is one of the places where I write. And I love the quietness. I love the nature, and I love how God uses the elements around us to really inspire, or at least inspire my thoughts and my writing.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor?
Testing.
Questions from the floor? Which mic would the audience members use? Use this one? Okay.
This one goes to the last presenter, Dr. Neil.
Yes.
I see here you have AI, artificial intelligence, is not just about technology, but about humans' future. I want to know what part of that future would soft skills have to play? Because I've heard that because of AI, AI will be taking over almost all the technical skills. So all we're left with would be the soft skills. So the soft skills would become the hard skills. So what part that would play in humanity's future? As you said, technology is not just about, AI is not just about technology, but about humanity's future.
Yeah, thank you very much. So there's even earlier I would have said, there are research out there, and let me use the word research, that would have shown how humans begin to interact with AI. And I'm sure for those of us who are on TikTok, because I'm on TikTok also, you realize that a number of persons are making videos, having a conversation with AI. Anyone have seen any one of those videos? No? Oh Lord, that means I should be the old one up here. Okay, one person. Okay, right? So the idea is that persons are begin to see AI as a part of their everyday operation, their everyday behavior. Now we can discuss whether or not that is good or bad, and for every good you have some kind of bad. But for technical persons, because I'm a technical person also, I see AI enhancing knowledge in terms of allowing you, the technical person, to become what we call a prompt engineer. And a prompt engineer, for those who are unaware, of what that new career is, and I'm going to use the word new career because it is a new career. It's the ability of an individual to ask the right questions to the AI for it to give you the right response. And let me clarify that some more so we understand. If I ask an AI to define the term seasoning, the AI is going to pull from what we call a data set, which is most of the books that exist across the internet, and that we can have a conversation about whether it is legal or how it goes. We can have the conversation. So it pulls that information from all over. And it gives you the first one that pops up. And it will tell you, it might give you the definition for seasoning based on meat, right? However, if I ask the AI, I am a woodwork specialist, or I'm in timber technology. That is a fancy term now. Timber technology. And I ask it to define the term seasoning. It's going to give me the definition of drying lumber, which is actually a technical term for technical persons, not for persons who are unaware of that field. So that is how AI can enhance, you as a technical individual. So I'm hoping that that helped to clarify.
No, I was wondering still, there are things that AI would not be able to do. And I think it's more things like connecting with humans. They're not yet, I'm saying yet.
Well,
not able to connect with human as a human being would connect to another human being.
Yeah, what is happening now is that persons are experimenting with AI so much that you have the young people now, some who do not know how to quote, is that the correct, to talk to a girl or, talk to a boy. They are now going to the AI to ask, okay, how do I approach this person? Right? What should I say? And then Apple now integrate AI into its messaging system, right? So you can, if you're uncertain as to how to communicate with someone, you can ask and it will suggest. So it is facilitating the connection between you and the individual. So, and the more technology grows, the more it becomes a part of our existence. So even though something might not exist as yet, for example, in 2023, which I would classify as the dawn of the internet on the exposed front, and I say that because a lot of time technology has been worked on behind the scene that we do not know of. But once it comes out, then, I would classify it as the dawn. When it came out first, a number of universities across the continental countries would have indicated that students are supposed to use AI on the onset. And a few months after, they released papers that, okay, students can use AI, but the school administrator would have to guide it. And then after that, months after, they release papers and say, okay, students can use AI. So you have the whole transition keeps on happening. The point is that technology is ever evolving. And so even though something might not be able to do something now that we can identify, then you'll find eventually it is able to do it. I hope that answers your question. Sorry for that long answer. I have to go, in depth and all right.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Jihan, the story of losing children, is it anywhere in your book? For instance, you recommend, or maybe recommend is the wrong word, you identify what happened to you so that 5 years after, 2 years after, 3 years after, other people in your situation, so at least we could correct. So we know what it is that causes miscarriage. And so somebody else coming after you may not have to go through the same thing. Do you indicate, have you indicated in the book that kind of effort? And for the Mr. Neil, the question, this AI business, if we are in school now, you mentioned the ethics. How do you get students who can have a contract with laziness to an official contract with laziness not to go to work? And perhaps you need to be talking to the copyright people over there, is it? To see how we can make sure that this is not just something copied from AI. And are our teachers being prepared to spot, if you wish, or to identify these things so that you may have people walking around with bachelors and masters and PhD from AI?
You want me to go first? Okay, thank you. Yes. So those are very wonderful questions, Mr. Daniel. I am here not only as senior lecturer for the IT program, but I'm also here as the Goodwill Ambassador for Science and Technology. So it is important for me to be an advocate for the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, right? The question about the students, who have signed the contract and handed it in, and it is going on now. It's soon expire. And all that. The reality is that, and I want to start here because the reality is that technology is here to stay. That's the first thing that we have to accept. It is here to stay, and that is why the developers of the technology, before it was released, there was some contention as to what is going to happen. But then the argument was, do we stifle technology because of the fear of mankind adapting to it? Or do we embrace technology and use it to our advantage? So those are some of the questions that would actually ask. And if I should go back to the dawn of the internet in 1993, 1994, we have recorded videos on YouTube and on social media platforms with companies saying that they would never use the internet because transaction is not safe, right? Now, if you fast forward between 1993 and 1994 to now, if you do not have a website and you have a business running, 80% of your business is gone. Yeah. It's gone because persons are online using the technology, 24/7, right? Having said that, now it therefore means if the technology is here to stay and it has the benefit of maximizing our economy, it therefore means that the education system will have to look on artificial intelligence as a means of how we can use it to benefit the teachers, the administrators, and even the students, which lead me to strategies. What are some of the methodologies that I would use within a classroom? Let's say I am a teacher. It means that the teacher would have to change the normal way of teaching. The chalk and talk way, as we know, doesn't work, right? What works is what we call the constructivist theory, where you allow the students to become the center of the classroom. And if the student is center of the classroom, then you're going to divert them from the idea of just giving them a list of questions to go home and answer, or give them some multiple choice to go home and answer, or give them some definition to define to go home and answer and take back. Because what they're going to do is to put it in the AI, and the AI is going to give them the answer. And in most cases, the answer is going to be right, right? And so the methodology in teaching would have to be improved on or changed. So instead of giving the students a list of questions to go home, to give the definitions, to take back, no, you change your method. You use a constructivist approach where this becomes more of a project, where you will have to present, you will have to talk about your assignment. You will have to defend it, if you will. And even if they are given a piece of assignment, which you know that they might use AI to use, they will have to come back in the classroom and present and explain what they just, what they got. Because what I find happening is that when I travel throughout the region, teachers will say that, the students are using AI, and the reason why they know that they're using AI is because the students doesn't talk like that, right? So the way how it's reading, we know you don't talk like that. Oh no, you don't use those words, all right? So that is an indication. So instead of it being something negative, it could be the other way around, where the teacher uses that as a methodology for them to actually present that work and research what those words are. So we have to look at it from that perspective, as opposed from the normal way where something is new, so we demonize it. All right? Now, from, I think the next part of the question was about, the teachers. So we need to have more professional development in that area to encourage teachers to use AI, how to make their lesson plans more unique, to make it more user-friendly to students, right? AI can also help the administrators within the school to cut time. You can use AI to take register, right? So the time that you spend to take register, you could be doing some activities with the students, right? It can use to manage help to manage the classroom. So it must be seen as a positive, as opposed to the students might use it and then, they get a grade for something that they do not deserve. So the approach should be a change of approach from the teacher's perspective. Many of the universities across, they do have policies. For example, I believe at CFPC here, there are some policy where students can use AI up to a certain point. And you have some, some universities require students to use AI up to a certain point, but within the context of them presenting that work to the professor. So you can't just get some information, put it and just submit, and that's it. No, you have to come now and explain to us why that is that, right? And that brings them back around. So instead of, and I know that we have a lot of persons who are afraid of the technology, but let's see it on the positive side. Let's look on the side where it can maximize work, because that is what the continental countries are doing. And that is why many of them are powerful, and they are far, far ahead. While we are here still struggling to figure out, should we put our foot in the water, or should we step back, there move on. So we want to encourage everyone to use AI, but use it within the context of being beneficial to you and be safe. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel, for the question. Of course, in telling my story, I did identify the cause, but the cause for me was fibroids. But the thing is that having fibroids doesn't mean that you're going to have a miscarriage. It really is just touch and go. Many miscarriages, the cause is not known. It could be something as simple as stress. It could be underlying health conditions. Could be chromosomal abnormalities from the mother or the father. So it really, I don't know if there's a way to prevent it per se, but it just is going to call for women to be as healthy as possible. There are concerns about the older you are, the higher the risk is. So these are things that we want to consider. And these conversations may seem, out of the way, but, just today or yesterday I saw that the US is trying to encourage women to have more babies. And we've had, ministers here say, we need to raise the population in St. Kitts and Nevis. But there are women who are trying to have babies, but they're not being successful. So are we going to start having conversations about covering the cost of IVF? Are we going to start talking about the way that we eat is causing us to have a lot of hormonal imbalances? These are the kind of conversations that we need to consider if we're talking about preventing miscarriage or increasing the population and things of this nature. It's going to be far more far-reaching than I think some of us would consider.
Was counseling part of your process of moving on?
So at the hospital, I was offered counseling, which I call the social studies test. They asked me who was the prime minister, who was the prime minister before that, and how old I was. So I think it's like a cognitive test to see if I'm still aware. And they said they would call me for follow-up. And one time the nurse called me and she asked me about one of my family members. So it's like, are you calling me to counsel or you're trying to find information about one of my family members? So I took counseling myself. I went to a counselor myself, paid for it all $270 per session, and got back $30 per session from insurance. Because counseling is not something that the insurance covers. So thankfully for me, I was able to pay for it myself. But I can't imagine how many people go through this and can't afford to go through therapy, or may just, choose to suffer in silence. But I credit therapy as one of the biggest reasons why I think I was able to continue living, writing, working, because I should mention I got 3 weeks sick leave, had to go back to work in 3 weeks. So, because the law, again, if I was pregnant for 10 more days, I would have been able to get 3 months. So again, you see, these are the kind of things that we have to consider. So it is really important for us to think about these things. Think about also counseling for the fathers of the babies as well, because we often don't think about the fathers who are grieving and taking care of the mother as well, in cases where the father is present. So it's a conversation that we really need to have. And again, if you consider that 1 in 4 women have gone through this experience, are going to go through this experience, we really need to have a serious conversation.
I want to make a brief comment. In light of what you said just now about the counseling, some of the laws regarding sick leave, etc., I would hope that as this is being live streamed, that some of the authorities in the Ministry of Health and some of your colleagues in Legal Affairs Department are listening and making notes, because a lot of this needs to be addressed like yesterday.
Well, just to say, of course, I have written to every political party. I submitted recommendations to the hospital administration. I developed a list of 21 things the government can do to support women who have gone through this experience. So I have been doing this advocacy. I'm not all the way out coming on the radio and talking about it and doing it, but there are definitely things from making sure that you bring the child. There is somebody told me they brought the baby's body in a bedpan. Things like that people have to deal with, where there is no policy. Where is the empathy? Doctors who would tell you you didn't lose a baby, you lost a fetus. What use is that distinction to somebody who's been through that experience? So there is definitely need for some empathy training, and I've offered to do it, to offer the parent experience, to offer the legal experience, and I hope that eventually that we'll see positive changes in this area.
Yes, so, it's we're living in a very interesting world, and there are challenges that, there are challenges that exist that should not exist, and I know that the authorities are listening, so they are watching, and so, I won't say I understand, because I don't think I will ever understand that kind of journey that you have gone through. But there's one thing that I like what you did, was that you put it in writing, you put it out there. And I think that is commendable, because not everyone could have recovered in that way, to put it down in words. Some persons silently suffer and they just stay there and they say nothing, But I'm glad that you're able to do that, because now it's out there, and some kind of conversation can be had even from here.
Good evening. This is my second time of being here, and I'm very happy to be here. I have a question for the concerning the miscarriage part. My question is, in your book, I haven't seen it being displayed, but is there any part concerning the fathers? Do you have a section concerning that? And what is your views of how did your husband reacted in your pregnancy loss?
Chapter 9, The Forgotten Fathers. So there's a whole conversation about what that experience was like for him, the way that everybody would ask him how I was doing. Nobody was asking him how he was doing. The way that he had to leave me in the hospital to go look for medication. And I always remember him crying and then having to wipe his eyes, put on his shades, and he stood up and he said, let's go, you gotta do this. And then he left to get medication for me. Had to go back to work the next day, because what is there for men? What is bereavement leave when the medical system doesn't even recognize your child as a human? So men bear a lot in these situations, and we often overlook their emotions and their experience. So I needed to include that and to also encourage people to look out for the men in these situations as well.
Again, Miss Coffee has a hand up.
Good night, all. I must say thanks to all the panelists, all the authors. I enjoyed each presentation. I learned quite a bit. I think I am better for having been here this evening. My comments, I know I have a question, but I'm not sure how to phrase it. It relates to Dr. Neal in particular and Mrs. Williams Jehan.
Yes.
Okay?
Always works.
What I'm thinking, you said you published your book. Basically, you couldn't trust anybody with your story to that effect. And Dr. Neal, having been one, you are into IT, AI, and all of that. I am looking at the issue. I'm also speaking as an author. I know the work that goes into producing a publication. And with AI, it is just as easy to whip up a book on the internet. As Mr. Daniel said, many persons are out there with degrees from AI. So I am wondering, how do we strike that balance between actually writing from a human being, as a soul, as an individual, somebody with a story, a voice, and getting it out there, using maybe a traditional publisher, because it is also very expensive. So, where is the balance? How does that work?
Well, I think in terms of the AI issue, I use ChatGPT very often. Why work hard when it's available for free? Work smarter, not harder. In some instances. But I know it's not appropriate. My ethical compass would not allow me to use AI to publish a book or to write a book. There are people who don't have those qualms and will do that. But at the end of the day, you know what you've published, and you, having written it, would be in a far better competent position to present it, to defend it, to validate it if necessary. So to me, if people are doing that, that's up to them. But I will follow my compass and write myself. So I don't think we should concern ourselves too deeply with what people are doing in that sense.
And Dr. Neil noticed, there is software. So where is the student handing in work on author to a publisher, there's software that either the university or publishing house can use to detect the percentage of. No, we understand some AI will be used, okay? Authors, Dr. Neil, Jihan, myself, we use AI for things like, for example, you might do a chapter outline of a book. AI would assist you. You may want to vet a paragraph or a page in terms of grammar. AI assists you. But for those who, as Jihan said, whose ethical compass is really skewed and would use the AI to write the whole book wholesale for them, they saw the good thing about it. The same technology that some people misuse, that same technology, it can be used by colleges. And I told my students this early this semester that CFBC has now purchased the software. So the lecturers will check your work for plagiarism. So we can use the same AI to check how much AI is in their work. So that's the beauty. So that's the beauty of the technology.
Yeah, so thank you very much. It's all right. You know, while you said the question, something came to mind that I thought about, and it is the whole idea of our phones that we use. When you start to type a message, your phone will give you what it believes that you want to say. And in some cases, it might be correct. And what you do is just select that, because that is what you want to say. So you have AI is aiding you in that process as you go along. Now, for those who have a story, and I say that just to say that AI is something that is integrated, and sometimes we don't even realize that it is integrated. You're on social media, you saw a pair of shoes, and you probably would have said to yourself with your phone beside you, you know, I would like to have that particular pair of shoes. And then when you open your social media, that same thing begin to pop up on your page, and you say, you know what, this is it, let me go and get it. That was AI, because it listens also. All right, and that's another conversation that we can have again. So yes, there is a concern where AI is, but the question is, how do you use it? And to what degree AI has extended? Now, CFBC use Microsoft Teams. Well, Teams, right? AI is integrated in it. Most colleges uses Microsoft Teams, or they probably use Google or any one of those platforms. AI is integrated in it. And within their policy, they give the developers for AI will give you the opportunity as the admin, whether or not you want to link the AI that you're using to the internet, or you want it to operate offline, which means that it only uses the data that you put in it, and that's it. So there are variations to how you can use AI. Now, while you were asking the question, something came to my mind about the relationship, or the correlationship between AI versus studying online. I remember once upon a time back in the past, you know, private sector personnel across the region would say they do not want somebody who study online. Right? Now private sector is saying that we want to keep you to work. You have to, you know, if you want to keep a job, we can provide a scholarship for you to work online. So to school online while you work, right? So you find that slow shift begin to happen there. AI boils down to how you use it. Now, where the legal perspective of it comes is that the fact that you have the ChatGPT and you have the, so many of them out there, Gemini and all of those out there, Copilot, right? The fact that they're out there for you to actually use, it means that there's some level of permission that is given for them to use certain content across the world. Now, it means that you can use it to help you, and that's what it's meant for. It's to help you into getting a lot of things done. So for example, Dr. Gill talking about crafting like a table of content. Yeah, can use to help you to do that. When it comes down to your story, something that affected you or something that you're passionate about, The AI cannot tell that story because it doesn't know that story. So it can't bring that information. So you have to tell it because it won't know, right? It is just pulling from data sets, and we call it data sets all over. You're just pulling from data sets all over the world. Your story is unique to you. It's not out there. And so the only way AI can aid you there is if you will say to it, okay, I have this story. What is the best way to tell this story? Based on other authors, what are they doing? How are they published? How are they presenting their content? And then you will have to choose, based on what it presents, how you want to publish your work, or what style or what fashion. So it's there just like Google. So I see AI as an advance, and I'm using that so we all understand, an advanced Google. Because before time you want to find something, let's go and Google it, right? So you Google it, right? And so Google will give you a number of references. What the AI does is quantify it. Instead of sending you all over the place, it brings you to one point. And based on your question, then it will actually give you more information. So it boils down to you having a unique story, which AI doesn't, and you perhaps want to use it to help you in the direction to get that material out. Now, there are persons out there who would have published books, whether it is on Amazon or whether it is on different platforms, in which they would have generated their content from AI by asking it specific questions to get certain information out of it. It is not classified as illegal, right? Because the true nature of AI is to pull from different sources, as what you would do as an individual or as a professor who would have studied long. You have the sources and you know where to get them from, and you pull them together and you formulate this. That is what AI is actually doing. So it boils down to you as an individual. How do you want to tell your story? Do you want your story to be told from AI perspective? I wouldn't advise that, because AI is going to tell based on whatever data set it is being exposed to. But most persons who have their story and they want to tell something and they want to bring something out, the recommendation is to let AI guide you, because it is exposed to a lot of experts all over the world. And it can help you to get that material out how you want it. But to ask you to write your story for you, you yourself will not even accept that, because it is not giving you your experience, your feeling, how you felt about it. It's capturing that.
Don't put your whole work into the AI, because then now it forms part of a data set. But as he checks that out, I just had an idea. I'm going to try when I go home to ask AI to give me step-by-step plan of how to self-publish.
Okay, so you can do it right now.
Yeah.
Hey, chat. Hey, chat. Not talking to me now? Chat is not talking to me. Let me try again. Hey, chat.
Hey, what's up?
Give me a step-by-step process of how to publish a book.
Sure. Here's a step-by-step process for publishing an ebook. 1. Your content. Make sure it's well written and thoroughly edited into a proper ebook format like EPUB or Mobi.
We're having a network.
That grabs attention. 4. Choose a...
Okay, so we're having a networking issue. Yeah. But the point...
It's doable. And I said that because you said that self-publishing is expensive. You can make the choice to go through a traditional publisher. I've never asked anybody not to do that. But what I have said is I did it all by myself. and it was far less cheaper. And at the back of my book, it was published by Bones and Daughter Publishing with a ISBN that is credited to the Caribbean. So when books written from the Caribbean are published, are listed, mine will come up. A lot of people who use, like the Vanity Houses, I don't want to call any names, but if you use those services, and they usually offer you one of these ISBN codes, it's a code that is issued from the US. So your book, if you get an ISBN that's issued by a US provider, it's going to be registered as a book that was published in the US. So Caribbean, all the way. And that was very important to me.
And after our question, we take some questions from online viewers.
Good night, all. My
Good
question
night.
is for Mrs. Caesar. Mrs. Caesar, I have a question for you. Your book, Quiet Strength, I've heard that it is about God, love, and light. So for someone who hasn't read it or who is about to read it, tell me, in the first 30 days or the first couple months or so, what type of changes can I expect to see in my own life from something that I'm reading daily, a devotional, a journal, whether from your own experience in writing it or from reviews from those who have read it? What can I expect if I start reading this book?
Thank you, Miss Hadassah Coffee. Very good question. Now, this book, sure you can see it online. If you start reading it, as she asked, within the first 30 days, what changes can you expect? Now it speaks about God, life, and love. So the first I would say is intimacy with God, right? That is so important because God, as we all know, is our creator. But how many of us really know him? And he wants to be so included in our daily lives, just like a close friend that you know, just like a husband, where you know their likes, their dislikes. You know when they enter a room, you know their fragrance, right? You know when they're having a bad day, because God is God, yes, and sometimes we grieve God based on our attitudes towards him. So sometimes he cries when somebody loses their life with all these murders and saying it. Our God is not pleased. Sometimes he gets sad because that is a soul that's going, and most times, sad to say, they do not have a relationship with God. All right? So intimacy with God, your intimacy with him will certainly improve. Now life. There's one particular poem that I have in here that is connected to COVID-19. And let me see if I can find it quickly. For some persons who could not wait for the world to open again, some persons did not have a good relationship with their husband or their wife, and so they hated being locked in with that person. Oh my God. So all of these happen. Now it's called locked down, but not knocked out. And it speaks about why did God allow COVID-19? What was the purpose? And also, what transformation took place for some? How did we use the opportunity? What dynamics were there? Because, the truth be told, it was a reset. Personal reset, professional reset, reset with God. Some persons would have used the time wisely, and others would not have. So when you even read this devotional for a day, a week, there's so much in there because it really puts life in perspective. What am I doing with the time that I have? Even if it was a negative situation in the world, how did I turn that around for the positive? How did I use it to really maximize what God even has planted within me? Many persons grew their businesses during that time. Many persons became millionaires. Many persons would have learned a new trade, written a book. What, right. So you use that to advance yourself in life. And also, even as I mentioned the section about life, life has thrown us so many curveballs, so many things, so many situations we can talk about today. But what is our response to those situations? What was Jean's response to her miscarriage? Right? So what is our response when we go to difficult situations? It should change us, not to dwell on the negative, not to dwell on the difficult situation, but what it is trying to bring out of me. How is that molding me? How am I increasing my capacity in whatever area that I'm at? Right? So transformation will take place when you read this book. Now for the love section, as it said, you have to proceed with caution. Keep your feelings in check. Okay? Now the love chapter, and we know with young people, hormones are all over the place. And sometimes, I think somebody mentioned here tonight about quoting, yes, and asking AI how to quote. What about asking your mom or your dad? What about asking your parents, right? But at times it is a difficult conversation. It's uncomfortable for a lot of parents. So if you take one of these poems from the love section, The Perfect Words, and just begin to read it with your son or your daughter. Ask questions. How are you feeling? Give your story. Because sometimes the son or the daughter is waiting for the parent to be vulnerable. Talk about your love affairs. Talk about how it was for you growing up. And so it gives them a platform to also feel honest. But as they go through the writings in this book, have a conversation. Make it a conversation. Ask questions. Proceed with caution. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. So we now have some questions from our online viewers. Now the first one was covered already by Jihan about your experience in self-publishing and whether you would recommend it for others. So we covered that already. The second question is for Dr. Neil. What are some types of assessments that you would recommend for teachers who are willing to embrace the use of AI in the classroom?
Yeah. All right. So that's a good one. So some of the assessment would be project-based learning would be a very good one, where students are given projects to actually work on. Group-based learning, assigning them themes to actually use to complete projects. We could go on and on and on, but there are several methodologies that is out there. One of the overarching method that I believe in, I think I mentioned it earlier, is what we call the constructivist approach. The student should be the center of the classroom. If the student is not the center of the classroom, then what we're doing is chalk and talk, right? And then the students will actually reproduce, give you back what AI is giving you, and then you leave it there. But if the students become the center of the classroom, which means that the child is given the task to be active in the class, to present, to role play, to be a part of a group, to visit a site, to work on a project, a physical project, then that will actually divert them from the dependence on AI from the perspective of regurgitating what AI give them to give to you. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Our next question is from Miriam. Miriam, what in your findings indicate that there is a growing positive attitude towards our dialect, or patois? The person who's asking is concerned that it is becoming extinct because we have lost a lot of words that cannot be easily translated to English or do not have a clear link phonetically to English. Don't forget to unmute, Miriam. technicians are checking. There may be a bit of an issue, so we technicians are checking it out. So a question from the floor while the technicians are getting that started. Okay, Miriam?
Good evening, everyone. I have questions all across the board. Okay, so firstly, Ms. Jihan, you already answered one of my questions about whether it's more expensive to self-publish. You said it was cheaper, so I'll change that. You said you self-published, right? So I was wondering how exactly did you get that done? If you could describe that process to me. For Miss Denise. I don't think you mentioned how you published your book. So my question is also along the lines of that as well. How, if it was from an external publisher, if there's any that you recommend in St. and stuff like that. Let's see. I had a question for Miriam too, but I don't know if she can hear me right now. Can she? I'll just get to her after. Okay, and lastly for Dr. Ricardo, my question, it's not exactly related to your book, but it's actually quite fair. Were you involved in the creation of Voice It, the AI chatbot that's on the Law Commission website? Okay, that's I was just wondering that. Thank you.
Yeah, Voice It is great. Self-publishing. I should probably rephrase when I said I did it all myself. What I mean is that I engaged persons to do specific things that led me to self-publish. So for example, I hired somebody to do the editing. You should never edit your own work. You will not see your mistakes. So when I finished writing, I hired somebody to do the editing. We worked through versions, had an edited version. The next step that you need to do is get it formatted into the format of a book. You say what size book you want, how many pages, what font, different things of that nature. There is, well, I'm sure students know about Fiverr. F-I-V, yeah, Fiverr. Just go on Fiverr and look for somebody who does formatting and pay them $150 US. And you get back a version, a formatted version of your book that you can then upload to Amazon, the self-publishing portal, with your book cover. Well, you also have to get a book cover, so you have to get a book cover designed. And then you upload these things to Amazon, and the process is done. So it's really, there are people who are just not willing to go through those processes, or maybe not aware that this is an option, but it really doesn't have to be as expensive as some people do it. I knew exactly how I wanted my cover to look, so I did a photo shoot with that and knew what colors and everything of that nature. So if you have a clear idea of what you want, you really don't necessarily have to go through a traditional publisher. However, I will say my book will probably never be on a bestsellers list, because those lists usually require you to go through a traditional publisher. But I don't care about that. So it wasn't anything lost for me. I got exactly what I wanted with perhaps a quarter of the cost. So my first book, Making Married Life Easy.
Could reach?
as I was saying, my first book, Making Married Life Easy, was published locally. It was published by Inside and Insight. Okay, so it was not a self-published book. I paid for it. More expensive than self-publishing. But it was my first book, and I'm still on the learning process. My second book, Quiet Strength, was not published locally, but was published in the Caribbean by Daylight Publishing out of Jamaica, right? So now I'm able to compare both different flavors and decide what I'm doing for my third publication.
And back to the question. So so I'm not involved in that development, but there are technology that you use right now that I'm involved in, but because of NDA, we can't say. but there are technology that you actually use. I know you didn't ask me this question, but I think I'm going to say also. So I'm also signed with various, 3 or more publishing agency in the Caribbean region, and I also have some books which are self-published. And if I should choose the ones that I prefer the self-published ones, because if you look on it from an economic perspective, then it's better in some cases. The publishing agency in some cases will say they will give you 10% because they are doing everything. Some will say they're giving you 30%. All right? So you have to look at it from the point of advantage. If you're putting your story out there, you should get some kind of benefit out of it. Whether or not that is your focus. The reality is that the world is an economical driven world, and if you have your story, you should benefit from your story in some way. And so there are persons who benefit from being self-published. There are those who choose the self-published route and get the book out there, and then for the other editions, they sign to an author. So edition 1, they might have it out there, but for edition 2, it's tied to a publishing agency. They're getting 20% from that. And then from the self-publishing, they're getting 100% from that one. So that's it. The other thing about the Fiverr, I think it's, in most cases, because we are not aware that, you can actually get your books out there, even with the formatting feature. Amazon provides an entire service for that, for free, where it will actually ask you to write. Kindle. It ties to Kindle is a part of it, but it gives you different ones. So you will have to spend some time now to tinker and so forth. But once you get it, then it will be good for you. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because I am recommending young people to get material out there. They should get material out there. And I remember when I was doing my very first book, I did not know how to get it published. You know what I did? Back in the days, I had what is called Magic Jack. You guys remember what it is? Okay, all right. Okay, I feel, like I'm at home now. So I used Magic Jack, and I was calling. I just went to Google and just Google. I just asked Google, give me all the publishing agencies. And it gave me a whole list, and I began to call the numbers 111111. So yeah. So my wife is here as evidence, so she knows. So I was calling them one until I meet upon several who was interested in the book, and so they asked me to send the table of content, and then they looked at it from there. So that's the route that I went through for the very first one. For the other ones, I didn't have so much issue anymore, because once you learn the experience the first time, it's easier for the rest of the other books. And that is why experience teacheth wisdom. Yes? Am I in church? Okay, right? So it's good to try new things. If you have a passion for something, you try, because once you get over that hurdle, after that, it's smooth sailing. I have 18 plus, and more is coming. So because it becomes easier over time.
For Inside and Insight, the royalty is 100%, and also for Daylight Publishing as well, it's 100% royalty.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Is Miriam's audio working as yet? It is?
Try.
Okay. Would you like me to repeat the question? Would you like me to repeat?
No, Sonisa sent it to me, so that was fine.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for the question. So I looked at two different things, right? So for the English in St. Kitts, I used the sound files that I asked the people to rate on different questions of status and as well on social desirability. So how likely does this person sound like one of your friends, for example? How trustworthy is this person? So this was more the implicit attitudes, because in attitudes we distinguish between implicit and explicit. So implicit are more the things you are less explicitly aware of, and explicit attitudes are some things that you can openly share and that you can also more easily influence and more easily change. So for Kiddish and Creole, I used most of the results come from the interviews with the people I had, so that just the regular conversations, especially the conversations with the teachers. So these are more the explicit attitudes that you can change more easily and that you're more aware of. So I would say it is a starting point, and I think it also takes quite a long time for attitudes to change. So if we assume, okay, teachers slowly change their attitudes and see the cultural value of Creole, of the local dialect, and also treat it more openly and more embracingly in the classroom, then the students will have a positive effect. And then once they grow up, this potentially has an effect on their children then again as well. So it's going to take some time. Generally, what we often observe is that the more globalized our world becomes, the more specific words get lost as well, because we want to be understood by other people as well. I see this also in the dialect I speak myself, so I don't speak standard German, but a dialect of German. And compared to my grandparents, I use a lot fewer very specific dialect words because there is more contact with people. So the dialect changes, but as long as people still speak it, I don't think it's going to go extinct. Especially also if we now see positive changes in education, for example. I don't think it's going to get extinct.
Indira, you had a question. Sorry, you had a question for Miriam?
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. My question is very, very simple, actually. I understand that your thesis is published. My question lies along the lines of accessibility. You see, oftentimes when we try to go online and access these works, it's very hard because the websites only give limited access to certain institutions. So that's my question.
So yes, exactly. That was the same thing with my PhD as well. So the rule was that we had to publish it on the university webpage, but it was blocked for 2 years. So the try my way around this was that I brought like a printed version to Miss Daniel so that she could have it in the library as well. By now, it's openly downloadable, so everyone can download the PDF. You just type in the title and then it should show up on the university webpage and the PDF can be downloaded.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Oh, okay. Are there any more questions from the floor? Okay, gentleman at the back.
Hello again, Mr. Neil. Good night to everyone. My name is Tavian Williams. Just 2 questions. First question is, for Mr. Neil, what do you believe is the end goal for AI in terms of the all-encompassing purpose behind us incorporating it into society. And also in terms of, for example, a graph like the Moore's Law, based on that time frame, how long do you think it would take for us to get to that goal?
You're asking me to predict, right? And, we can predict based on trends and so forth. But I would not give you a timeline to say, how long, AI would do what we think it should be doing. You see, it depends on which side of the fence you sit on and the perspective. Within robotics, you have those who believe that robots should be autonomous, and you have those who believe that robots should be controlled. So you have a split in the scientific world. And where Moore's Law is concerned, it depends on where we are with semiconductors, right? Now we have a trade war going on, and we're watching to see what's going to happen. It depends on where the trade war goes. Semiconductors, for those who are unaware, is what is used in our devices, and that is also used to power AI. China, Taiwan, the United States, they do create semiconductors. China depends on Taiwan for a number of the semiconductors that they use. Now, China is saying by 2026, 2027, they will no longer need semiconductors from no other country. They are going to find their own. So it depends on how the world moves to say whether Moore's Law will be applicable to artificial intelligence. And so if the trend continue as it is, the possibility is that AI might be more prevalent in the next 3 to 4 years, based on how things are going on. But we're watching to see the conversation between the White House and, to see how things go. You asked, there's a first question you asked. I might have missed the first piece of the question. The end goal of AI, yes. And, right, so what's the end goal of AI? We could ask the same question, what was the goal to create the internet? What was the objective? Why do we want to connect the world? And it boils down to connectivity. And then also it comes down to which side of the fence you're on. If you are funding it, then your end goal is to make as much money as possible, right? If you're on the user end, then for you, it is to see how this can benefit me in every aspect of my life. So it depends on which side of the fence you're on. I think we should focus, especially within the context of the Caribbean region, we should focus on how can we maximize this to transform our socio-economic status. I think that's the angle that we should take. And that is why I started by saying that our dependence within the Caribbean region is on the tourism and so forth. And we need to diversify. We have to. We don't have a choice, right? Because things are changing. And so we should look at it from the perspective to see how can we use AI to benefit us from an economic perspective, meaning that train our young people to create AI agents, right, that does different things, just like voices, right? Voice it. As I say, voice it, right? Have young people create that and sell it back to other companies across the world and let them invest in it. So money is actually coming in the country. So we should see it from that point of view, rather than this is going to take over the world. We see it from the point of view of maximizing, learn about it. How can we use it to benefit our life?
Okay, we have a question from the lady.
Yes, good evening to everyone. I just
Good evening.
just want to say that I'm inspired. I'm happy that I'm here. And to your authors, you're passionate about what you do. I hope and trust that some of you would have continuing series on what you have done. I'm inspired especially simply because I'm an upcoming author, new. I did one on Canva and Amazon, and I brought it here because I work with children that has autism. And yeah, so I just want to say that you're inspiring me and continue the good work. Thank you.
You see, within the Robotics Association, we have this thing that we operate by. You do not have to know how to build a robot to be a part of the organization. The idea is for you just to want to. You don't have to know, because you will eventually learn something. And I think that is the approach that is lacking across the Caribbean region, where we will say to ourselves, I am not an expert to do something. And I think we should divert from that thinking. You do not need a PhD to write a book, right? You do not need that. You do not need a master's to write a book. All you need to have is a drive and carry and push it. That's all you need. And I think we have been trapped in the world of limits to say that, oh, you need to have this to do that, and you need to have that. No, that's not the case. The university that someone graduates from has no bearing upon whether or not they are the most effective employee within an organization. It has no bearing, right? It boils down to you as an individual. And so I am really proud to see that you're able to take that step and do something like that. You don't need to be an expert.
We have a question from the gentleman.
Well, this is not really a question. My name is Clive Keynes. I'm a consultant, electronic engineering consultant. I have a small outfit called the Electronic Center. I'm also a part-time writer, if I may call myself that. I don't really have a question, but just a comment. It's interesting. I have observed over time, and I find it very interesting that we seem to just grab something and run with it. For example, we say that AI is artificial intelligence. Now, if something is to me, it's a misnomer, because if something is artificial, how can it be intelligent? You know, from my perspective, it is nothing but a tool. In fact, I'm going to read a small excerpt from one of my essays on the same subject. Just give me 1 second. I have it on my my telephone here. Okay. And this is just anybody who's interested, they can send me their contact, and I'll send them a couple of my essays. Artificial intelligence is a misnomer. If something is artificial, then it's not real. And if it's not real, how can it be intelligent? This question, let's see here. This is the paradox of our time. Can this question be answered unequivocally? It cannot. AI is as real as purple-colored Kool-Aid is grape juice. AI is nothing but a tool, short and simple. A tool is something designed to make work easier. It can be as basic as a hoe, or as sophisticated as machines used to create nanoscopic semiconductors. Since the beginning of time, the human initiative has been responsible for the development of tools. As societies evolved and became better organized, the exponential acceleration of tool development has brought us to where we are today. And in my humble opinion, I think, and I open my remarks by saying we grab things and run with it. for me, from my perspective, I think we're better off sticking to IT, intelligent tools, rather than artificial intelligence. I think that would be a better seller, rather than AI. So we will stick with it. You understand? And we should push it, sell it.
Yes, so I agree with you that AI is a tool. So I agree with that 100% that AI is a tool. I was in a meeting once, we were doing policy development, and I will be short. We were doing policy, we were writing the policy for ICT for St. Kitts and Nevis. And in the meeting, the question came up about a computer lab. And as you know, when you're writing policies, you have to define terms. And so everyone at the table was defining an IT lab as a space that has computer systems in it. You have, a printer and so forth, which is typical to what we know. But then the question arises, a computer lab requires connectivity, right? And the very phone that students have that can be classified as a computer, because you can do everything on it that you can do on a computer system. So then we had to look on the definition for a computer lab in a more broader context. If we have several phones within the room and they're able to connect to each other, you're sitting in a computer lab, right? And so yes, you have the definition of terms which are defined a particular way, and the crafters of that term, and I would not try to defend why the crafters call it that, but what I can say is that it is classified as artificial because you're pulling from other person's knowledge. And so as mankind, we try to make things in our image. That is how we are, right? And it comes from God make man in his image. And so we take on that mantra where, we feel the need to create. And so that is where that term of artificial comes from. So I see your statement from more of a philosophical perspective, but I do agree it is a tool, right?
One question. Can you tell me, you said AI is for health purpose. What are the uses and benefits of it? And as we know that there is a saying that we as individuals should not just take information off of the internet, we should consider a doctor. So tell me, what are the benefits of AI in the healthcare, especially in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Hold on. AI has so many benefits that if we should implement controlled AI here within the healthcare system in St. Kitts and Nevis, you'll find that diagnosing diseases would be much quicker and easier. And the reason why I say that is because every country has, if you look on the medical aspect, they have particular diseases which are common. And AI behave in this way, where it is trained based on data set, what we call a set of data. So it's trained on that. So for example, let's say we have a lot of cancer cases, God forbid. I don't have the data, so I'm just hypothetically speaking, right? A lot of cancer cases. You'd have to go to the doctor for the doctor to go through the whole process to tell you what is going on. But with AI that is trained and controlled, it can give you that diagnosis instantly because it is trained on the data coming from the particular hospital. And you have AI agents, they call them, that is used right across the world, mainly in the large continental countries, which are used to aid the medical doctors in terms of giving quick diagnosis where they would review based on the data set that the AI is fed. And I'm saying that specifically because I do not want for you to leave from here to go to ChatGPT. I feel a pain in my side. I wonder if something wrong. No, right? That's why I'm using the word controlled AI, meaning that it is being trained on a specific set of data based on a particular hospital or based in a particular country. And you have countries which are doing that. So to give you a fast diagnosis to make things go faster. You know, there are cases where, you know, just like what my dear lawyer would have said, you know, she had some struggles where, you know, doctor just come and say, this is the situation. Once we have AI integrated into the hospital system here in St. Kitts and Nevis, what would happen is that doctors would be rated once, you know, it could give them a rating where you, the patient, can rate the doctor to say that this doctor didn't do a good job, and that data goes back to the hospital administration, and they look at it and say, you know what, this one is not working out well, so we need to make some shuffling, right? So it can help in so many ways to make it better, right? Now, we know that in order for such to happen, you will need policy in place to guide it and to protect it. I know currently the UNESCO has set out on a project to, you know, guide countries in ensuring that they have a AI policy. I'm not certain how far St. Kitts is, but I know for a fact that that is something that is, you know, being discussed. Now, further, I do not believe that we have to wait on a particular group to make a decision for us as a people to make a decision, because this is our life, right? And so AI would benefit in that way, right? Once it is controlled and it is being fed a selected piece of data. And the same thing goes for even the education system. The data that the school has could be fed into an AI that is located at the school itself, which is not connected to the internet. But it is just fed that data to help to manage and streamline operations within the school systems. So those are some of the ways that, you know, AI could actually help. If we look on, if we cross-reference other countries across the world, and you look at what they're doing, they have implemented AI over a decade, right? And it is aiding a number of the processes that they actually do. So it's not something that is strange, something that doesn't happen. It is happening. It's just that we just need to catch up.
Okay. And Dr. Neil, it is believed that AI will replace doctors and teachers. I mean, help us to visualize that. Give us some insight on how that could possibly happen.
Okay, so again, it comes back to which side of the fence are you sitting on? So I sit on the side of the fence where AI is an assistant. It works along with you. I do not believe that within our lifetime you will see AI take over the entire operation of our entire life, right? Because it takes a lot of power to run it, right? And with the geopolitical issues that goes on across the world, it slows down the progression and the growth of tech, right? And so we definitely have a long way to go before you see, you know, where you go in a classroom and it's a robot there, you know, teaching the class, right? You do have China who is experimenting with AI, but they do have a teacher assigned to the class still. In the medical field, right, robots that is integrated with AI is being used to perform some of the more complex surgeries right now as we speak, right? So you do have that, but what we have recognized is that even though technology grows fast, you still have you still have control. Let me use that word. You still have control. Whether we're talking about, you know, the military, they still retain control. You're talking about healthcare, the doctors still use the robotics arm. They are actually controlling it, right? So there's still control that is maintained. And that is why I said earlier that within the scientific field, you have those who believe in autonomous, and you have those who believe in retaining control. Now, the two football players, the one that is winning is the one who believes in control. So we are safe.
Okay.
Just a follow-up. It is felt that The information economy is on its way out, and innovation economy is on its way in. How could we prepare our students for that? In the Caribbean, in particular, for that in the innovation economy?
Yeah, I think one of the good things for my students, and I think I can point out a few of my students sitting down here right now. Malik, who is standing right at the camera there, former student. Gentleman here, forgive me, I haven't seen you in a long time, right? Former student. And so I have the students all over. And there's one thing that they can attest, that we focus within our classroom on research and development. The concept that we throw out the door is the concept of, I don't know, so it ends there. We do not necessarily operate by that context. We operate under the context of, do you have interest in creating something? Yes. And then the follow-up response from the students would be, but I do not know how to. And then I will say, well, we're all going to learn together, right? And so if that approach is actually adopted, within the classrooms, and that is why many schools are looking to a methodology called the STEAM approach: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics approach. And they're looking to that because it forced the student, in a fun way, of course, to actually think outside of the box. So if most educational institutions, and I'm saying that because I am one of them who travel around the Caribbean region on a regular basis, training teachers how to use the STEAM method approach. And that approach is one of the approach. If we implement it within the schools, you'll find a lot of changes beginning to happen. Because what you will see happen is that students are no longer thinking of just being a user of the tech. They're more thinking of, okay, I could make that. I could design that. I was traveling to the British Virgin Islands with a number of students, and they were looking at the plane, and one of them turned to me and said, but you know, Dr. Neil, this looks so easy. I could make it. Right? And I say, yes, you can. I am not going to say, oh, well, you need to spend 100 years in school. And then, no. Because none of the invention that we use right now had started with someone who had 100 years of experience. No, trial and error until they get it right. And then they same one come around and write the policies, and then an education system is built around it. So so once the Caribbean region, and also within our context within St. Kitts and Nevis, begin to embrace the STEAM methodology. And when I say the STEAM methodology, it's different from what we call the STEAM subjects, because most Caribbean countries, whenever you talk about STEAM, the first thing comes to their mind are the specific subjects: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. But when you say STEAM methodology, it means that it is a method, an approach that is used in whatever subject area, all right? And so that would actually prepare our student to begin to think as a creator and not necessarily just as a user. That's a very good question. Thank you very much for asking that, because it was a part of my presentation, but because of the time, I had to cut it short.
Okay, we have had a very good session today. The presentation, give our hand to the authors again. The presentations were insightful and eye-opening. We had a great interaction to the question and answer session, so the audience members, both in person and online, give yourselves a hand as well, okay? And for those of you audience members who are already published authors, like Ms. Anne Francis, right? Yes, Ms. Francis, and those prospective authors, like Indira, I think, well, congratulations. If you're even just thinking about it, congratulations, and go forth. Unfortunately, all great things have to come to an end. So we have come to the end of the question and answer session. The next item, though, will be a presentation to the participating authors.
I will take this opportunity to present to Mrs. Jan Williams Knight, the CFPC token for your participation in our trip. Offers for thank you. And thanks for always responding to our invitation. She's a CFPC alumna. So we call on her very often. Next we call Dr. Let's say ladies first. So let us call Mrs. Denise Caesar. Thank you for participating. Dr. Ricardo Neal. Yes, the CFPC band. You know, Mrs. Neal will find a good news.
I've been watching it.
Thanks again for participating. You were here some time ago.
Yeah, some time ago.
Dr. Cameron Diego. Before Dr. Cameron was supposed to be Miriam. Dr. Gail, we want to say thank you for moderating our event this evening, and we do appreciate it. You're always supportive of the library, and we do appreciate it.
I was
all
just
you do.
whispering to Gian that the bags look nice, and we're going to beg you one, but I don't have to beg it anymore.
I didn't. And now this one, which remains, is for Miriam. So we'll have to get it to you.
Next time I'm in St. Kitts, I'll drop by.
Yes. And Miriam, I do have the link to Miriam's thesis, so I'll share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, now I would like to deliver the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank our esteemed librarian, Ms. Sonita Daniel, for every year taking on the immense, but I'm sure for a rewarding task of preparing our Authors Forum. This is the 5th year of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College Authors Forum, which is put on by the library at CFBC. As a bookworm, I appreciate the reason why she does this, to encourage both authors and to encourage those of us who love to read great books, whether fiction or non-fiction. So, Ms. Daniel, thank you for, again, taking this undertaking. For our authors who took part in this year's Authors Forum, Dr. Miriam Smalls, Ms. Jan Williams, Dr. Ricardo Neal, Ms. Caesar, thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for sharing the writing and publishing process with us this evening and your inspiration. Thank you for sharing that, as well as sharing your expertise during the question and answer session. For our audience, both in person and virtual, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you for your questions, which provided thought-provoking discussion. And for all aspiring authors out there, Thank you for even daring to dream, and we look forward to reading your work. Everybody, a very pleasant good evening. Keep reading, keep writing, keep dreaming.
We now wish to have a photo shoot with those participating authors and then also all the authors who are in the room. We have some lovely refreshments prepared. We also forgot to thank Island Films and Photography. Jason Connor, and we the photography and our IT department for streaming this event. Like, we want to say thanks. Come up the other.
All the authors in the audience,
Coffee.
all the authors in the audience, please come. Thank you, Miriam. If you wish to leave, we won't keep you any longer. Thanks again for taking part.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great night.
Thanks, same to you. Bye.
Danke, merci.
Merci. Thank you.